Let's go! Woo! Over the middle, and it's complete to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson makes someone miss. Garrett Wilson's loose to the 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Breece Hall cuts up the middle. Breece Hall's loose. Breece Hall's gone. Breece Hall is gone. He walks into the end zone. Josh Allen fires it over the middle. Intercepted. Sauce Gardner picks off Allen. Sauce Gardner, let's go! The rookie picks off Josh Allen. Win it. Let's go. Oh my God. Drops back to pass. He fires it over the middle. Touchdown! Garrett Wilson! The New York Jets tie the football game! The rookie! The Jets win! The Jets win! Ashton Davis, ices the game! Let's go! And Quinton Williams with the tackle for loss. That's a loss of 5 yards. Josh Allen is going to fire up a bomb. Josh Allen, Sauce Gardner's there for the game winner! The New York Jets beat the Buffalo Bills and improved to 6-3 on the year. Sauce Gardner! That's how we get on the ball, boys. Yeah. Yo, what is good, Jets Nation? Welcome back to another Jets Media live stream. That opening is pretty crazy. I might have to change it up because I keep looking back, man. This season was so many ups, as you saw in the video, but there's also so many lows that I keep sitting in the back of my head. But today we got a special stream for you guys. If you remember last year, we did something very similar at the end of the year. I brought in all the Jets content creators that were able to make it, and we got some special guests waiting behind stage to join to really recap the offseason for the or preview the offseason, because we have a lot of things to talk about, man. We have an offensive coordinator search. Who's going to be our new quarterback? We got Woody Johnson talking about that. They are going to be spending big, and we are a quarterback away. We're looking for a new offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of things to preview for the offseason, but I also want to make sure that we take some time and we review and recap what happened for the New York Jets this past season, finishing 7-10 under Robert Saleh, and really go over all the best moments, the worst moments from the season, going over all the players. So, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into the show. We're going to bring in all of the special guests in just a minute. Before we do that, I want to give a special shout out to the proud sportsbook sponsor of Jets Media, which is BetUS, where the game begins. BetUS, if you click the link down below in the description, guys, NFL weekend is right here, the wildcard weekend. You can make an account with the link down below in the description, and they give you $50 when you sign up without even making any type of deposit. So if you make a deposit, if you go down below in the description, you click that link, you make an account on BetUS, they give you $50 free without even making any sort of deposit. You can make a nice parlay because it's free money. And that's what I've been doing on BetUS, and they're definitely my go-to to do it. And when it comes to sports betting, me personally, I kind of don't sports bet that much throughout the regular season. When it comes to the NFL playoffs, that's where I'm all in on the betting. So make sure you guys use that link down below in the description. You also have an option to, they give 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,500 on BetUS. So if you guys are into sports betting and you want to get a sports book at a great deal, make sure you guys click that link down below in the description for BetUS. So once again, big time shout out for BetUS for being the official sportsbook sponsor of Jets Media. Now, with that being said, let's bring in the special guests who've been waiting so patiently behind stage. We got Jack representing from Jets Media with me. We got Matt O'Leary. We got Jake. We also have some other people who will be coming a little later on. They're late to the party. But fellas, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for taking some time. Jack, how you feeling this morning, my man?
I'm feeling great, man. Super happy to be here with all you guys. Talking Jets. Love it. Favorite thing to do, especially with a panel as awesome as this. So thanks for having me, man. Hyped for this.
We got Ryan who's late to the party. Ryan,
sorry guys,
just roll out of bed.
Doing some dad stuff. Completely lost track of time.
Ryan, we appreciate you having taking some time, man. Taking some time out of your dad duties. I know that must be very time consuming. So Ryan, how you doing this morning?
not too bad. Hanging in there, trying to figure out all this Jet stuff, just like the rest of you guys.
Yeah, right. We got a lot to break down today. I'm excited for that. Matt, just watched your mock offseason, as I told you, behind the stage. Great video, guys. If you did not check out Matt's video, he comes out with it every single year. He just came out with it last night. Want to give us a little preview about that, Matt, last night?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Yeah, kind of just go through, talk about potential cut candidates, trading for a quarterback, which I think is something that we're all kind of in on. I know we have differing opinions on who that guy should be, so we go through that. Free agent signings, both internal, external, a full mock draft, and then at the end we go over what the depth chart for 2023 will look like. It's a long one. It's like 25 minutes, something like that, but it's a ton of fun to make every year, so I'd appreciate it if you guys check it out.
Yeah, definitely make sure you guys check that out because the Jets have a big time offseason ahead, and that is a really good idea where you can get a good perspective of the options that they got. Jake, I was just on your show this week. How you doing, my man? It was great to be a guest, and I'm great to have you on my show now.
Likewise, Richie. I'm doing well, man. I wish, obviously, we were talking about a playoff game for the Jets this week, but there's been a ton of news to talk about with the Jets without them going to the playoffs this week with the LaFleur stuff and Woody speaking yesterday. So there's still been plenty to talk about with this football team.
Absolutely, man. So I want to give a big, gigantic shout out to everybody in the chat that's tuning in to this Jets Media live stream with all the great Jets content creators that you know very well. I want to thank you guys for all taking time to come on here on Jets Media to really recap the season that got wrapped up last week and preview the offseason that is upon us. Before we get any further, guys, if you guys could do me a gigantic favor, please go down below in the description. And if you're not already, subscribe to each and every one of their channels. You got Jake's channel linked down below. He just hit 25K. You got Matt O'Leary's channel down below there. He's continuously growing with Ryan's, his Jets Talk 24/7. And even check out Jack's channel because he got original music on the way that I'm going to force him to put on that channel. So make sure you guys go down below in the description, subscribe to all these channels. I'm sure you already are by now, right? If you're not, what are you doing? Come on. And of course, hit that like button, guys. And let's get straight into it. So before we get into the recap of the season, we have some trending talking points that's happening day to day that everyone needs to know what's going on. Let's talk about the Jets offensive coordinator situation. So the Jets decide to move on from Mike LaFleur, and that decision came on Wednesday, I believe, and they decided to part ways. So I want to start off with Jack because this is Jack's first time really having an opportunity to talk about this decision. And Jack, as you guys know, has never really been a fan of Mike LaFleur. He's been down on him throughout the whole year. He's been hating on him. So I'm sure this is a breath of fresh air for Jack. So how do you feel about the move, Jack, of officially parting ways with Mike LaFleur? Do you think it's the right decision?
I was definitely a LaFleur hater, man. I think this needed to happen. It would be one thing if we had, just Zach Wilson as a sample size, right? Or just Mike White as a sample size. But we saw 4 different quarterbacks out there at certain points playing football for the Jets this year. And the offense sucked in 4 different ways. So I think it comes down to the play calling and Michael LaFleur maybe being in a little over his head with this particular role. And I think that, with the coaching staff in general, I think what we're seeing and what we're dealing with is, when a first-time head coach, first-time DC, and a first-time OC all come together. Obviously, we're very hopeful that it's going to work out, but these guys are inexperienced, just like some of these players are inexperienced in their respective roles. So I think with especially how the offense was just absolutely abysmal for the last 6 weeks of the season. I think this is a change that needed to happen. I'm not exactly sure where we go from here, but I think this we couldn't go into next year after going 7-4 and then losing the last 6. We couldn't go into the next year just running it back. Something needed to happen. So LaFleur is the sacrificial lamb, but I'm not upset about it.
Yeah, he is a sacrificial lamb, man. And it was a decision that was going to be a really hard one for Robert Saleh because we know how close he is with him, but I feel like it's going to be the right decision. We got someone in the chat that said, we're missing Green Bean and Jet Central. They were both invited to the party. Unfortunately, they cannot make it. Cream Bean last minute texted me this morning, was unable to make it. Jet Central works. I also hit up Tyson from Jets Talk. I hit up a lot of people. So this is everyone that were able to make it today. We appreciate you, Rex Ryan, though, for being in the house. How about that? Evan with the $5 super chat. Do you guys think we will spend the money and draft picks for Lamar? I think it would be too much. And if it fails, I'll set us up for failure for years. Jake, I want to hear your thoughts about Evan's super chat about this. What do you think about Lamar? I know you're high on him, but do you think the Jets are actually going to go out there and spend the money and draft picks necessary if he becomes available?
If he's available, I think they'd be in on him. I do. I think we kind of been waiting now for that huge Joe Douglas trade. You know, there was someone in the Jets beat said that the Jets never checked in on Deshaun Watson. I can actually tell you that's not true. The Jets called several people down here in Houston and wanted to find out more. But this is before the legal issues popped up with Deshaun. So when they had the second pick in the draft, they were interested in Deshaun Watson. They at least looked into it and ultimately decided after the legal issues popped up, we're just going to draft our own guy. And we all know how that has unfortunately worked out with Zach Wilson. I think they'll be in on Lamar. They got to win next year. I mean, Woody Johnson didn't say playoff mandate, but it was basically implied with some of his commentary yesterday. They got to win. Woody talked about the need for a quarterback being the missing piece. Joe Douglas knows he's on the hot seat, so why wouldn't he be willing to trade a bunch of draft picks for Lamar Jackson? He knows if it doesn't work out, he's not going to be here, so you might as well take your big swing after you missed on Zach Wilson. So if he's available, and I don't know if he's going to be available, I think they'll call and they'd be willing to trade multiple first-round picks to do it. And if he is available, that's something you got to do. I mean, where are you getting a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson? You're not. Now, all these quarterbacks we talk about, they all have their issues. Lamar, of course, has a durability question, but the guy that keeps being linked to the Jets is Jimmy Garoppolo, who is a worse quarterback and also has durability problems. So I'll take my chance with Lamar, who, when he's at his best, he's as good as any of these elite quarterbacks in the playoffs. So I think it's worth the risk for the Jets. All these quarterbacks have risk, but I'd be all in on Lamar if he's available.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson sounds great to me. Sign me up. I've been a Lamar fan for a long time, to the point where everyone was like, oh, he's not that good. He can't throw. I was always the one defending him. So Lamar Jackson comes available. You go out there and you bring him in. City Burt with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much, my friend. We appreciate that. Why did Saleh say LaFleur had so many offers lined up so he had to let him go? Is he that guy that can do nobody wrong? I get coach speak, but I see this a potential coaching flaw down the line. I think this is more has to do with like Saleh being buddy with him. Like, you're talking about Saleh and LaFleur that go way back to the point where Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur were roommates, they're family friends, and it was just a respect thing where he don't want the narrative to be we fired him. It's just like we're mutually parting ways. I don't think there's anything else to read into it more than that. You fire him, you let him go, you mutually part ways. It's all the same thing. He's not the offensive coordinator anymore. Matt, what are your thoughts about this super chat from City Burt?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's kind of just trying to save face for LaFleur. It's better wording for him to say that, like, oh, we kind of parted ways, rather than, he was just fired. And, I'm sure that he is going to have opportunities. He can go back to San Francisco. He could join his brother with the Packers. I think, there's still a bright future for him. Maybe it was too early for him to be a coordinator, but I definitely think that there is talent there and upside there, and I don't think he's going to be out of work for very long.
Yeah, Ryan, do you think there was any issues with how Saleh handled this? And do you think it's going to be an issue for potential coaching flaw down the line?
No, I think my biggest issue with how he handled it was bringing in his friend and thinking he may not have needed to replace the passing of Greg Knapp with another veteran offensive coach. I think as far as him saying, LaFleur has many offers, like you said, I think it's just out of respect. I think they're close family friends. I don't think there's anything more to read into with that.
Yeah, I agree. So again, big shout out to City Burt for the $10 super chat. Now we're on the conversation of Mike LaFleur. Is there anybody here on the panel, anybody in the chat, feel free to let us know, that was in favor of keeping Mike LaFleur? That you feel like this was the wrong decision? Ryan?
No, I wouldn't say it's the wrong decision. I would have been in favor if they kept him. If they moved on from Calabrese and brought in an offensive assistant, I would have been fine with it. I was looking for someone that could take the place of him partway through the season, someone that was like, I think experienced offensive coordinator, not first-time offensive coordinator, is important. But I understand the change to move on from Mike LaFleur. I'm not upset with it really at all.
Now the big question is, who will be the OC next year? Well, it's going to start, man. We don't really have any official word of exactly who the New York Jets are interviewing yet, but there's definitely some names that are being thrown around. So, Matt, I want to start off with you. Offensive coordinators that you feel like is the most likely for the New York Jets to bring in, and some coordinators that you would like that maybe not be as realistic as you hope.
Yeah, if I'm Woody, I'm throwing the bag at Frank Reich. Now, I think there's a chance he gets a head coaching job, and then that kind of takes it out of the equation. But some of the list of guys that the Jets have been linked to or rumored to, kind of uninspiring. Don't necessarily love it, which is kind of what I was on the team of keep LaFleur and add an offensive, like a veteran as a offensive assistant or a quarterback coach or something like that, because my worry is you might struggle to get the big name offensive coordinator to come here with so many question marks about the quarterback position and the future of this coaching staff with the pressure on them to win in 2023. I love Todd Monken. If he's trying to get out of college football and come back to the NFL, that's another one. And I think, as crazy as it sounds, because he was so bad as a head coach, but Nathaniel Hackett is someone who I think would be interesting. He had success with the Packers, and even got a lot out of Blake Bortles, I think, who really isn't that very good of a quarterback, but was able to get them to a conference championship game, just getting by offensively. So I'd be intrigued with him as a veteran retread option.
Yeah, there's so many options out there. And the funny thing about this whole thing, Matt, like you said, a lot of people wanted to fire LaFleur, and then we fired LaFleur, and then they hear the candidates that we're bringing in. They're like, oh, wait, what? So it's like you got to realize it's a double-edged sword. It's not an easy situation to resolve. I want to get your guys' thoughts about a potential offensive coordinator and quarterback pairing that has been a big talking point that just feels like a perfect match, and that being Derek Carr and Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen was Derek Carr's offensive coordinator for the Raiders for his first 5 seasons. If you look at Derek Carr's career numbers under Greg Olsen, he has his career numbers over 4,000 yards a season. Just if you think of Derek Carr in his most productive seasons, it's most likely with Greg Olsen in the early on stages. Right now, he is with the LA Rams as a senior assistant. So if the Jets want to get Derek Carr, if that's like one of their top priorities where they're trying to work out a trade, I think Greg Olsen makes the most sense in that perspective, because it's just you kind of have a continuity element, because that's the thing that we're kind of escaping here by moving off of Mike LaFleur is we're not going to have stability. But I feel like if you want to have some type of familiarity, you want your quarterback and offensive coordinator to be on the same page, because it's obvious that we're getting a new OC, but we're also getting a new quarterback potentially, and we want to make sure that they are in the right mindset. And another thing about the offensive coordinator search that I think is a really interesting and important thing to keep in mind, guys, is that they are not closed to the same system that we've been running with Mike LaFleur, which is the Shanahan-style tree, the wide zone scheme. Saleh said that he's open to changing the entire system, which I think is a really big thing, because that means it really opens up other candidates like a Matt Nagy, who comes from a different system, and Cliff Kingsbury, and all these other guys that you never really would have thought. So I want to get your thoughts, Jake, because I know you're more of a Lamar guy, but when it comes to Derek Carr and Greg Olsen, is that a pair that you feel like makes sense for the Jets if they went with that route? How would you feel?
Yeah, no question. I think Lamar is unlikely. I mean, out of the guys that are like the dream scenarios, like maybe he's more likely than like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, if you want to throw him in that category. But out of the realistic options, I would prefer Carr over just about any other quarterback that's out there. I'd prefer him over Jimmy. I'd prefer him over Baker. Like, name your veteran who's bounced around. I would take Derek Carr over pretty much any of those guys. So if you pair him up with an offensive coordinator and Olsen, he's had success with, that could be a winning formula. I think Carr is an underrated player by a lot of Jet fans. I mean, he's never played on a defense that's been better than 20th. He's had so many different OCs and head coaches. So people are like, well, he can't handle New York. I mean, have you seen the dumpster fire that's been the Raiders at times the last 8 years of his career? So I'd be cool with that. I think, an Olsen-Carr pairing, that'd be an interesting scenario for the Jets as far as like realistic options you could do this offseason.
Yeah, I think if Derek Carr is the option, I think that's the best offensive coordinator to bring in. Jack, what's your thoughts of the quarterback position next year when you're going into it? It's obvious that the Jets are trying to go out there and get a veteran. Woody Johnson said himself that he is completely in support of going all in for a new quarterback, and that means being aggressive. How do you feel about Derek Carr? Because I think that's the most realistic option. And outside of that, do you see any other avenues the Jets can go to be their starting quarterback this season?
Derek Carr is definitely my number one option in terms of quarterback this offseason. Obviously, Lamar Jackson would be sweet. I don't think there's any Jets fan out there that wouldn't be hyped about that, but I do think that's kind of a pipe dream. But in terms of Derek Carr, man, I mean, I think I agree with you, Jake. I think by many measures, he's underrated. I mean, the Raiders' defense since Derek Carr has been the quarterback of that team has been garbage year in and year out. And obviously, we know that that's not the case here with the Jets, although they did flounder a little bit towards the end of the season. But obviously, we have a solid defense, and it's just going to get better, I think. And another stat that I saw about Derek Carr. Since he's been drafted, Derek Carr has the most game-winning drives by any quarterback in the NFL, which I thought was an interesting stat. Derek Carr, he's not that flashy guy that Lamar Jackson is. He's not gonna, jump off the screen at you, like a Lamar Jackson would. But all Derek Carr has done since being a Raider is thrown for the most yards and most touchdowns in Raider history. And I was kind of shocked. This is like the Raiders, I thought I would assume they had, some quarterback from the 70s that, broke all their records or some shit like that. But nah, man, Derek Carr is the best passer in the history of the Raiders franchise. And I think they've kind of done him dirty. I think if he was to go to any other team, he would be super hungry, super fired up to go out there and prove that the Raiders made the wrong decision when it comes to him. And I'm all in on Derek Carr, and obviously to pair him up with his guy in Olsen, I think would be fantastic. That would be my ideal scenario for the Jets at quarterback this offseason would be Derek Carr.
Yeah, I'm making a video either today or tomorrow of the pairing of Derek Carr and Greg Olsen because I think that is a very likely scenario that I kind of want to break down a little more in depth. We got some super chats I want to get to real quick before we transition to the next topic. Uncle says, you guys have a life. I wish I could sit home and talk Jets all day. Well, thank you, man. We enjoy talking Jets, and this donation makes it possible, so we appreciate that big time, my friend. Matt says, crazy question. Would you bring Sammy back? No. Listen, you guys know me. I have a soft spot for Sam Darnold. Everybody that knows me, Sam's my guy, but I'm not that much of a...
So do I.
I'm not that much of a...
Do you enjoy losing, Matt? Not Matt O'Leary, Matt Malillo, or however I botched that name.
Malillo.
We got to think bigger here. The Sam's experiment came. It failed. I'm going to be rooting for his success elsewhere, but he's not coming back.
I will say this, though. We failed Sam Darnold. Even though Sam did not look that great as a Jet, we failed Sam Darnold by putting zero pieces around him. Zach Wilson failed himself by playing like shit with talent around him.
Yeah, and I think it was a collective effort as well with the coaching staff with Zach Wilson's failure. As you see, they're all inspired as well. Brian with the $5 super chat. I would have liked to see Mike LaFleur with a veteran quarterback who knows how to call audibles when needed. He didn't have bad plays, just bad timing. So that's obviously not happening because Mike LaFleur is not here. Ryan, what's your thoughts about Brian's $5 super chat here?
Yeah, I think having a veteran in the room, whether it be a veteran quarterback or a veteran coach, would have helped immensely. I think the passing of Greg Knapp was really a shot to the gut for the growth potential for these first-time coordinators. I don't know. Look, I think there were enough times that I saw Braxton Berrios getting an end around instead of Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson that I can comfortably say I'm all right moving on from LaFleur. But I think a vet would have helped.
I agree. Julio with the $5 says overpaying for an injured Jackson would be a salary cap suicide, especially with all of the in-house talent we have. I know I'm in the minority. So this is definitely the biggest, concern when it comes to Lamar Jackson, that we can't just go out there and get him in free agency, or like a Derek Carr. If you got to trade for him, it'd be some draft capital, like a third round pick, maybe a second, nothing crazy. But Lamar, you're talking about sacrificing. Think of the Sean Watson trade, something along those lines, not exactly the same. Multiple firsts potentially on top of giving him a $200+ million contract. But that's the price you got to pay for some superstar quarterbacks. I mean, we're talking about a quarterback that the Jets have not had in my life. So anybody have something to say to Julio of why it's worth the risk to go out there to get Jackson, even though it's going to be a lot of overpaying?
You can't win without a quarterback. Like, you can't win without a top 10 quarterback, really. I mean, like, look at the teams that win Super Bowls. They're all elite quarterbacks, or if they're not quote-unquote elite quarterbacks, they're capable, like Eli Manning or Flacco, of putting together, like, a historic run that's not truly sustainable. Like, you're in the AFC as well, Julio. Like, you're going to face Josh Allen twice a year, every year. You're going to have to deal with Burrow. You're going to have to deal with Herbert. You're going to have to, of course, deal now with Trevor Lawrence. Like, you need a superstar quarterback to go head-to-head with those guys. And if Lamar's available, he's worth it. He's 26 years old, and you just hope that when you have him, he puts together a year where he does stay healthy, and that's the year you have enough around him to go on a run. Like that. This, unfortunately, is what you have to do when you draft a huge bust with the second overall pick. Like, Zach Wilson was supposed to be one of these guys that could go toe-to-toe with the elite in the AFC. Even if Zach Wilson ends up being a decent quarterback, is he ever going to be good enough to go head-to-head with some of the names I mentioned? So that's why I would do it if he's available. But I don't know if the Ravens are going to trade him. So I'm thinking this is a lot of, like, just hoping for something that might not even occur at all.
Yeah, I agree. And I also have to say that this is the first time where I feel like the Jets have positioned themselves where they're so talented on paper around the quarterback that you can feel a little more comfortable giving up future capital, because we have blue chip players on this team already through the draft that we can develop, like Sauce, like Garrett, like Brees, like all these guys. So it's kind of like, oh, you get Lamar with those guys already on the team. Let's go freaking win today. Sturdy Bird can get out of the MetLife lease 2025. Thoughts?
Won't happen.
It's not gonna. They're staying put, man.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
I spoke to Steve Cohen personally, actually, last week at Citi Field, and I'm like, Steve, football fan? And he's like, I'm like, Jets or Giants? He's like,
not Jets.
I'm like, neither? He's like, yeah, I just didn't grow up a football fan. I was like, oh, so like there's no shot the Jets are ever coming to the Queens, right? He's like, no, definitely not. I was like, okay, Steve, thanks for ruining my just blind dream of bringing them back home. And I know we got Jersey fans in the chat. No, Richie, the Jets aren't going anywhere. They're staying put. We don't want to bring them to Queens. That makes us inconvenient. Well, they were started there, baby. Shea Stadium. Come on. PC, is Zach salvageable in y'all's opinion? I think Zach Wilson is not salvageable for this upcoming season, but could he be salvageable for the future? Matt, what do you say about that?
Maybe. I know that's a really bad answer. I know you're probably looking for a definitive answer, but
the only answer, dude.
Yeah. Like you said, he can't be quarterback one for next year. I think you sit him behind a veteran, have to have him learn, completely reset, and maybe there's something there that could be fixed, because I think the issue with Zach is a lot of it's mental. I think no one's going to question his physical talents, but he has to put it together mentally and mechanically, and that's sometimes not an easy thing to do. So I think we just got to wait and see. But there's no way that I think you can have him be QB1 for next year.
Yep, I agree. V-Man is the man. I foresee the Jets getting Carr and Olsen. With those two Jets, we'll put a season for the ages and clinch the AFC East via game-winning touchdown to Rutgers. Okay, that's an amazing, visual. V-Man, let's make this freaking happen, because that sounds freaking fantastic. So V-Man, I appreciate the donation as always, my friend. Muttviles is a great supporter here of the channel and all of our channels. Hey Ryan, are we trading for Jamal Adams back? Would love Lamar Jackson, but if we go after Derek Carr, don't trade. Wait for him to get cut. Go Jets. So yeah, that's the thing that we have to realize, that Derek Carr and the Raiders are looking for a trade, but if they don't get traded by the Super Bowl, the Jets can get it for free via free agency. So is there a reason why he's asking you, Ryan, in general, though, if we're trading for Jamal?
Yeah, well, not so much Jamal, but I think just talking about trades and contracts and stuff in general, the Derek Carr thing's interesting. And I think, like you brought up, the Greg Olsen connection, I think if the Jets were to get Greg Olsen, I think the best move would be to trade for Derek Carr, because then his contract is essentially a one-year deal. And if it doesn't work out next year, you pull the plug on everyone. I think if I were Derek Carr, I would test the open market. I don't think there's any way he should waive his no trade clause for anything, because he's only guaranteed $40 million at that February 15th point. I think if he hits the open market, he's easily going to get 3 years, $100 million. So for me, if you get Olsen, trade for Carr, so you got him locked in on a relatively cheap deal for this year, and then maybe you work on an extension in the offseason. But yeah, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I like Carr.
Poor guy, man. Poor guy. Only 40 million.
Yeah, but if you can get 100, why would you like take?
I feel
the 40?
terrible for him. No, of course, but it's just hilarious.
Green and White Militia with the $5 donation. We appreciate that, my friend. I love the Jets hard hat you got on there. Love that. But we got a big time dono from Abe Lab Studios. Big time dono hype in the chat right here, as we just hit 100 likes as well. Look at that. 100 likes flat, $100 donation. Thank you so much, my friend. Good morning, boys. Looking forward to the great content you put up. AR and Lamar are pipe dreams and are red flags. I needs money age. It's Carr or Jimmy. At the end of the day, I trust Joe Douglas. He has championship pedigree and has put us in the right path. Believe, gang. This is the positive energy that we need, baby. This is the type of things that I like to hear from Jets fans heading into the offseason, that, you know, they believe, they trust in Joe Douglas's vision, and they see all the future. So, Matt, what's your thoughts about what he has to say in this donation, man?
Yeah, I think he brings up a good point, and kind of like we were talking about earlier with the super chat that was worried about Lamar Jackson. I think you could come up with a red flag or a risk with literally every single option for the Jets. So it's kind of just, you know, laying out which one of those do you feel most comfortable in. And I agree. I think Aaron Rodgers and Lamar are probably more than likely staying put with where they are. So Carr and Jimmy seems more realistic. Of those two, I mean, we talked about injuries with Lamar. Jimmy G gets hurt all the time, so I think Carr is the best of the realistic options. And yeah, I mean, it's a huge decision for JD because he's not going to get a third opportunity at picking a different quarterback. So he better get this veteran one right.
Yeah. Jake, what's your thoughts of Joe Douglas? Do you still trust in him? Is he on the hot seat in your eyes? Like, is this a big season for him to really keep his job? Like, do you trust him to be able to, you know, take another swing at a quarterback this offseason?
Yeah, I think he's done enough to certainly get that opportunity. But like, I'd be lying if I said like I have like all the faith in the world in the Jets to get this right. I mean, he took Zach Wilson. That's one of the biggest busts ever. And like all of a sudden, the 2020 draft class doesn't look great. We'll see what happens with Becton. Hopefully, he comes back. 2021 doesn't look as great as it once did. So, you know, he certainly deserves more time. Like, I don't think we're running Joe Douglas out of here, but he also hired Robert Saleh. So if Robert Saleh ends up not working out, that's another thing that Joe Douglas did. And like, I don't want to be anti-Joe Douglas. I'm not, but I think sometimes we're just like, in JD, we trust. He could do no wrong. And it's like, it's okay to criticize him. He hasn't been perfect. Nobody's been perfect as a GM. I still think that all being said, he's earned an opportunity to go through a fourth full offseason and go into a year 3 with the head coach and Saleh that he hired. But he's got to get it right. Like, if the Jets don't make the playoffs next year, I want Saleh out. I want Douglas out. Like, it's time. Like, we shouldn't have to wait any longer. The Jets have the longest playoff drought in professional sports once the Kings make the playoffs this year. Like, we're not asking for that much for this team that has a really good defense, that has some really good skill players like Sauce Gardner, like Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and Breece Hall coming back. They got to be in the playoffs. So I think this is a big year for Douglas, a big year for Saleh, but I think it's a fair expectation. Like, I don't think it's anything that they can't accomplish if they get it right this offseason.
Yeah, pretty much agree with everything you said. And I want to give another big time shout out for Abe Lab Studios, man. This $100 donation means a lot to the channel, my friend. Thank you so much. Jets NY102 with the $5 says, still can't believe the Jets had the audacity to raise the ticket prices during our little win streak. Shave my head. Nevertheless, go Jets. Woody Johnson, man, that little slime, right? Come on, Woody.
It's all about money to the Johnsons.
Criminal. Like, come on, Woody. Be better, bro. We're sorry about that, man. Sorry about that. Julio, main focus should be improving the O-line. We had success with Sanchez, with Mangold, with Brick in front of him. Yes, I think the offensive line is probably the biggest focus of the offseason, obviously outside the quarterback position, because this team and Saleh and Douglas's philosophy starts with the trenches. The defensive line was great. Offensive line, not so much. I think we all can agree that a big reason why the offensive line stunk this year had to do with the injuries, but at the same time, they did not have good grasp of the injuries, and it was just a nightmare. So, Julio, I couldn't agree more. Now, pivoting into this past season, we talked about what's happened in the offseason. We have an offensive coordinator to talk about who we're going to get, a quarterback, blah, 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 blah. But we had a season, guys, that just had finished last week, and I want to talk about it. A lot of things happened throughout this season, man, and I feel like, you know, we're so caught up in the offseason right now, as we should be, but there is some things to look back on in a positive light that should get you excited about the future of this team, in my opinion. So I want to start off with the biggest positives from this past season, whether it's an individual player, an individual game, a win streak, a position group, a coach, whatever the case may be. Jack, what's the biggest positive that you're taking away from the season that you can say, wow, okay, like this specific area of this team gets me excited for the future, and it should get a lot of Jets fans excited?
I think the drafting of Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and Breece Hall is what really gets me the most excited for the future. I think it was probably the biggest stride in the right direction that the Jets made this year. All three of those guys can play at a super high level. Obviously, we wish we could have seen a full season out of Breece Hall. But I think, hitting on those three players is doing a lot for Joe Douglas's job security right now. We just touched on Joe Douglas a little bit, so I don't want to get too into it. But this was big for Joe Douglas. If he continues to hit on these draft picks, we're always happy with how the team looks on paper, right? I mean, it's there's a lot of things that are out of the general manager's hands once he assembles the roster with injuries and stuff like that. But I think definitely the biggest positive for me is knowing that we have three absolute studs ready to go for the future, and that's Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall. And
those are blue chip cornerstone players, man. And that's the cool thing about it, Jack. It's not like, we hit on draft picks. Like, no, these guys have chances to be stars. Like Sauce played like the best corner at his position. We know what Garrett Wilson did as a rookie. He literally put up the best yards ever, the best season ever as a Jets receiver as a rookie. Best season we've seen since 2015. And then Breece Hall was on pace to be like the best running back we've seen since Curtis Martin. So yeah, blue chip players. Ryan, I want to come to you. Anything that comes to your mind from the biggest positives from the season?
Yeah, I think the draft class is the one you'll look at first and foremost, and secondly, I guess the overall youth on the team in general. I'm going to pivot a little bit. It's going to be a little outside the box, but I would say maybe hope is a little bit more of a thing. I think with LaFleur gone, it opens up the door to maybe the utilization of Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims a little bit better. Guys like Mekhi Becton may be able to show out a little bit more. I know the injuries have kind of been his bugaboo, but the one of the main things with our offense we were running is consistency along the offensive line is so critical. And for an offensive line that has seen some injuries, maybe switching up this offensive system might let us get almost like additional players back or more talent on this team than we may have otherwise realized we had with LaFleur here. So I think the positive for me is looking at talent potentially coming back with a new offensive coordinator.
I like that. That is outside the box, but I like it. Jake, how about you, my man? What's the biggest positives that you're taking away that someone hasn't mentioned, or you can agree with someone, of course?
Yeah, well, for the first time in 7 years, the season wasn't over by Columbus Day. I mean, that was a huge positive. Season was alive post-Thanksgiving, post-Christmas, post-New Year's. The Jets played a meaningful game in January this year. Now, we all wanted meaningful games in December/January. No one said that they were going to lose all of them, but they did play them. So that is a positive if you want to say, okay, they went from 4 wins to 7. Now playoffs are a bust next year.
I like that because we went into the season with the hopeful expectation of playing meaningful games in December and January, and we did that. But like you said, Jake, we lost all of them. So it kind of does feel bittersweet, which does stink. 0-6. It's got to change. Matt, what's your biggest positive from the season?
Yeah, you guys hit on a lot of really good ones. Just to add a different perspective here, I'm going to go with Quinn Williams becoming an elite star because I think with him, the issue was in his first 3 years, there were flashes and there would be a couple weeks where he'd look like that guy, but then he'd go quiet. And that never really happened for him this year. He absolutely deserves a long-term, big-time contract extension, and him blossoming into the player that everyone thought you were getting when you took him 3rd overall is huge for this team going forward.
Couldn't agree more, man. Quinn Williams taking that next step, being a star. Extend that man. And I do want to ask you guys your thoughts about Quinn later on. But my biggest positive from the season that no one has mentioned yet, and it's kind of an interesting conversation because a lot of Jets fans kind of feel some type of way. But personally, I think this is a big-time deal, man. The Jets defense in 2022. Look at these stats real quick, and I know that I'm going to get deeper into it. Don't worry. The New York Jets were 4th total in defense this season, 3rd against the pass, 16th against the rush, 3rd in total scoring. Now, you got to think about it in this perspective. Where this defense was under Robert Saleh in year 1 was last. Bottom of the league. How can you be a defensive-minded head coach and be that bad, Robert Saleh? Well, We got the players like Sauce. We added DJ Reed. We got Quinnen resurging into a star. And this is what happens when you got the players and Robert Saleh. And we actually, by the way, talking about health, we stayed very healthy on defense this year. Offense, not so much. Defense, we stayed healthy for the most part, which is a big reason why the Jets defense was so good this year. And I know some Jets fans were calling this defense overhyped and stuff, but in my opinion, I just feel like some Jets fans that say they're overhyped, they're putting this defense in some type of standard of they have to be this excellent top tier, top 2 defense. They have to pitch shutouts to the point where if they're not, just picking everything off and pitching 0 points, then they're overrated and overhyped. The reality is, and I know Jake knows the stat because we were talking about in his stream, if the New York Jets had an average offense this season and put up 21, 22 points per game every single game, which is, by the way, the league average, the Jets will have 11 wins and be in the playoffs. So the defense was far from the issue, and they had a lot of things that they needed to fix. They got a little worse as the season went on. They need to get more takeaways. They need to limit explosive plays. But in my opinion, man, this defense really showed you the potential with Robert Saleh, which is why he deserves another chance to be back as a Jets head coach. And Jeff Ulbrich also deserves a little bit of love because he was on the hot seat early on in the year. People were calling for his job, and now no one's even talking about Jeff Ulbrich potentially his job being on the line. Obviously, he's being returning. So I just feel like the Jets defense deserves a little more love, in my opinion, because they were doing everything they could this season to really fight to make us to the playoffs. And it's obvious that if you're an offense and you go 3 straight games with no touchdowns and you're not moving the ball and you're putting your defense on the field more often than not, the defense is not going to be perfect. They're going to be having some more mistakes than usual. But at the same time, defense isn't perfect. I don't want to make it seem like I'm hyping up this defense to be the best in the league, but I feel like when you look at the perspective from 2 seasons ago to last year, man, gigantic improvement that needs to be talked about and appreciated more. And I'm really, really excited for the potential, man. You talk about the blue chips of Sauce, DJ Reed, Quinnen Williams. We got a lot of blue chip players. And my favorite stat that I came up with about this defense, guys, in the secondary, talk about no fly zone. The Jets defense did not allow one quarterback to get 300 yards. Their only quarterback to get the most yards of the season was Joe Burrow, which was 275. That was the most yards a Jets defense ever gave up. And they also only gave up 2 100-yard receivers. And you got to think of it this perspective. Excuse me. Amari Cooper got that in week 2. George Pickens got that week 4, just over 100 yards. Think of all the receivers that the Jets went up against this season. Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs twice, Tyreek Hill twice. I mean, the list goes on and on. Jamar Chase. We went up against superstar receivers, and we held our own. So the defense deserves its love. I had to go on my little rant there because I feel like I'm really excited about that defense, man. So I want to talk about Quinnen Williams, like Matt O'Leary just alluded to. Will the Jets pay him? Because I feel like we all want the Jets to pay him. I think everyone, if you're a Jets fan that doesn't want to pay him, I don't know what you're talking. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that debate. But the question is, will the Jets pay him? I feel like Joe Douglas has a big decision here because we are in an interesting cap situation where, Quinnen's going to be asking for a lot of money and we're going to have to get a quarterback, which is expensive. So, Ryan, I'm going to start off with you. What's your confidence level in Quinnen Williams being paid after his breakout season?
I'm pretty confident. I mean, the one thing that Joe Douglas talked a lot about in his press conference, and one of the reasons why I think they're going to go after Derek Carr, is consistency. Quinnen Williams has been consistent as far as his health and availability for the Jets on the field. They've also talked about that Saleh and Douglas, their philosophies meld. They got to win in the trenches. Quinnen Williams is a big part of that. The only thing I'd say about Quinnen is there's a risk that he may not be here based on how we have to handle the quarterback situation. Like if we're going after Lamar and Quinnen is the piece to get us Lamar, Quinnen's gone. There's no way we're going to hold on to him if we can get the quarterback with Douglas on the hot seat. And like Douglas isn't going to be able to take advantage of Quinnen's next few years if he doesn't have a quarterback. So I think we wait until probably close to training camp to sign Quinnen, which is not something I particularly like to do. But I think you have to kind of figure out where all the money works in before you pay Quinnen a monster deal, because you can't do that before you have the quarterback figured out.
Yep, that is true. I just hope this doesn't get dragged out and becomes a distraction. That's my biggest fear, and I got confidence that it won't happen. Christopher says Aaron Rodgers is getting traded. Mark it down. We will see, man. That's very, very likely. If Aaron Rodgers' time done with the Packers, we can run it back with the Brett Favre coming to the Jets all over again. But I feel like hopefully it'll turn out better for us than Brett Favre. But no, don't get it twisted. I'm all in on A-Rod. Ablab with another donation. This one, $20. Thank you, my friend. Jermaine, Clemens, and Bam. These guys will shine next year. Our low-profile rookies have great upside. Jack, what was your thoughts about these 3 rookies this season? They were kind of, they're not Sauce. They're not Garrett. They're not Brees. What do you think about these 3 guys? You'd even throw in Max Mitchell, who I think had a very underrated rookie season when he was on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe Douglas absolutely, hit a home run this past offseason in terms of the draft, and obviously, going out and scooping a guy like Bam Knight as well, who, came in very explosive with fresh legs halfway through the season and did some cool things for us. I think, just a positive outlook and hope for the future is kind of the overall theme of this season. Obviously it ended, terribly, but so many young players really were big time contributors for the Jets this year. These 3 obviously included in that. So yeah, man, that's another good mark on Joe Douglas's resume. And hopefully these guys can continue to, provide some good things for us next year and in the years to come.
Yeah, I think Michael Clemens was such a big piece, and I think Jermaine and Clemens have such a bright future with this team, man. They were not starters. They were, in the rotation. When they become starters eventually, which I think is coming soon, they're going to be unlocked. So Ablab, again, man, thank you so much for the donations. Really does help out the channel a lot, my friend. Dead On with the $10 super chat. Thank you, my friend. You don't have a comment, so I don't know if you forgot to say something, but we appreciate the $10. It means a lot to the channel. V-Man again. The legend, V-Man, always here. How sad is it that the Beatles' last live performance is newer than the Jets winning Super Bowl 3? That is the most embarrassing fact about the Jets. Well, you can count on V-Man for bringing up some history, what happened back in the day, and comparatively speaking, when's the last time the Jets did this? V-Man, you're a legend, my friend. I appreciate that.
I got the Jets, and then right over there, I got the Beatles.
There we go.
Oh.
V-Man and Jack will get along very well with their music culture. That's for sure. All right. Is there another super chat? No, there's not. All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate that. So I want to get your guys' thoughts of your favorite moment from the season. Now, this question is basically, think of it in the perspective of maybe not your favorite moment from the season from the New York Jets as a team, but it could be a personal favorite moment or a memory that you have as a content creator, covering a specific game in the middle of the week, favorite memory on Jets Twitter, Jets YouTube, or a specific highlight or a game, whatever the case may be. Anything that comes to your mind, I'll let you guys think about it a little bit. And everybody in the chat, please answer this question. What's your favorite memory from this past season? Because there's a lot of things to break down. And also, before we get into our answers, if you guys can do me a gigantic favor, smash that thumbs up button if you're enjoying the show, man. We like to do this once a year, getting all the Jets content creators on at the same time that are able to make it, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So if you guys can do us a favor, let's get this to 200 likes before we wrap up the stream, man. So hit that thumbs up button. It would mean a ton to the channel. Thank you. So I'm going to give my favorite memory first, if you guys don't mind. So my favorite memory has to be Jets Media Day. And Jets Media Day was one of the most amazing days of my life for a lot of reasons. If you guys are not familiar with what Jets Media Day was week 5 against the Miami Dolphins. It was the first ever game day event that I've ever organized, and it just went so smoothly. I had over 100 people come to the Jets game, all sit in the same section. We all tailgated together. We all got access to the field after the game. After, by the way, an amazing W, blowing out the Dolphins 40-17. It was amazing to meet you guys in person. It was amazing to be, someone that can bring all of us Jets fans together in one area to watch a football game. I was with my friends like Jack. I was with, just all you guys that were there in the chat. I'm sure some of you guys were there for sure. Mutfields, Hennessy's in the chat. I know you guys were at Jets Media Day, and that just went so smoothly. And Jets Media Day this season is going to be like twice as big. So that's definitely my favorite memory. And of course, I don't know if Jets Media Day would have been this good of a memory if they lost that game. Just saying. That game, the way the Jets won that game against the Dolphins and the magnitude of a division W and running it up the score in the fourth quarter, I'll never freaking forget that, man. Amazing day. So, Jack, I'll pass it over to you. what's your favorite memory from this past season?
I mean, I'm just gonna piggyback off that, man. I mean, there's nothing else I can say. That was one of the best days ever. Witnessing a dominant Jets victory with all my best friends, so many people that I love. Getting to hang out with some subscribers to the channel. There with one of our buddies who's a big time Dolphins fan and just shoving everything in his face. Watching Quinnen Williams stiff arm Tyreek Hill to the dirt was absolutely amazing. That was Tyreek Hill, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Later.
that was right in our end zone where we were sitting. That was like right in perfect view. That day was phenomenal. Getting to go onto the field after the game, everything about that day was just like, a total fantasy for a Jets fan. I mean, a 23-point victory at home. The team was looking good. The vibes were high. Like I said, I was with all my best friends, people that I love. That's what it's all about, man. Little moments like that are why I will always love this team. So yeah, one of the best days ever.
Yeah, in the intro of my stream, you see a little clip of me and Jack like at the game, and I'm like vlogging, and you just see a feeling in my face like, I think we're different, guys. The Jets might be finally like something this year. Like I remember I had that look in my eyes, like, guys, I think we're finally doing it. We're finally winning a division game. Oh man, let's see that replicated more often next year for sure. Matt, what's your favorite Jets memory that comes to your mind after that chaotic roller coaster of a season?
Yeah, for me, it's the upset win over Buffalo. I went into that game with really zero expectation. I just thought, hey, you know what? If you keep it close, to me that's enough. Just hang and be competitive with them. And then they beat them and they made Josh Allen look silly. I loved that final drive where they just ran the ball right down the Bills' throat and they had no answer for it. They couldn't stop them. To me, that was the biggest statement win of the year, and it felt like, this is it. The Jets are finally turning a corner.
Yeah, that's a second place for me, no doubt about it. That Buffalo win, it kind of made you feel like, wow, we got over the hump. And even Douglas said that in that moment, he felt like we finally got over the hump, getting over the injuries. We're finally here. And then obviously after that, but it's okay. We're not going to bring that up. Jake, what was your best memory from this past season?
Definitely like win wise, it's the Bills game for sure. Probably just like off the field, like just meeting so many subscribers at tailgates. I was lucky enough to, I think I was at 3 games this year. So I was able to meet a bunch of listeners before the game and even at the game as well. So really cool to see, all the Jet fans that come up to you and say they watch your show or have seen you on other shows like this one. So really cool to meet so many people that invest so much time watching your content.
Yeah, that is such an
Awesome.
amazing feeling. And training camp, I also got to bring up, was an amazing memory. Did I just steal yours, Ryan? No, I was kidding.
I was gonna say, I was like, you and me watching Zach do the little donuts on the field.
All right, Ryan,
right?
go for it. What's your memory? I just took it out of your freaking mouth.
My favorite moment, that was a really good one. I guess my favorite on the field moment, definitely the stiff arm of Quinnen Williams of Tyreek Hill. That felt really good. That was like, I got up out of my seat when that happened. Just started yelling, like fist bumping.
Hell yeah.
But I would say favorite moment, I got to go to a Signed with Sauce event for Sauce Gardner and Buffalo Wild Wings at the beginning part of the season. That was really cool. I got to meet him and get his signature down in Willowbrook Mall, meet a few subscribers down there. So for me, that was a really cool event. Really liked Sauce coming out. So
yeah,
Ryan
and I had a really fun time. We went to training camp together. We were sitting right behind the practice field in the VIP section, which was an amazing experience. And we got to watch Zach Wilson when he was injured, like drive the cart. And like, we're like, wait, you like Ryan called it out. I was like, is that Zach Wilson? And did you see him just like chilling on the cart? It was like so random and so funny. And we got get a lot of fun autographs. That was an amazing day for sure. So yeah, man, that's all our memories. We had so many fun things this season, whether it's, on the field, off the field. You can bring up, the winning streak, I think, was fantastic as well. That time was just like every single week, just kind of felt like we're stacking W's. We're really changing the narrative. We're 5-2. Let's freaking go. And listen, man, I know that this season was a roller coaster. I know that we finished off with a gigantic disappointment, but please don't forget all that fun stuff that we experienced this season as Jets fans, because this is the best season that we've had in years. I know it's sad to say that, but it's the reality of the situation. So I feel like this season is a step in the right direction. In my opinion, the arrow is pointing up. Jets fan 4 with the $5 super chat says Joe Namath made a pact with the devil, and the Jets won't win a Super Bowl until he dies. Come on, man. We don't need to hear that. Not true. All right. I know that this is a stigma, but Joe Namath, he guaranteed the W. He got it done, and we're going to see a Super Bowl in our lifetime this decade. Okay? Everyone else
Sign
agree?
me up.
Come on.
Sign me up, bro.
This
Sign
decade,
me
baby.
up.
With Douglas, by the way, as the GM, and Saleh as the head coach. Bold take. Bold take. Richie, they both suck. I don't care. They're going to do it. Okay? You got to believe. Why not believe? All right, guys. Well, this was a fantastic show. You guys are awesome for taking time out of your busy days to come onto this Jets Media live stream and giving us your thoughts about this past season, about what's going on in the upcoming offseason, because there's so many things that we're going to have to be talking about on our own respective channels. Shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome today. We really do appreciate you guys. If you guys are not already, please consider hitting that thumbs up button. And more importantly, subscribe to each and every one of these guys' channels. That's linked down below in the description. So we're going to wrap up the show here, guys. We're going to go around the panel one last time. If you guys have anything you want to update about what's going on with your channel in the offseason, any type of content, and any last words you got to say, the recap, and your overall. I also want to get your overall thoughts about the future of this team and your overall either optimism or pessimism level heading into this offseason. So, Jack, start off with you.
Yeah, so I'll start with the actual the team first. I think the future is looking bright. We have a couple of really big decisions we need to make. I mean, the story right now, we don't have a quarterback, so that's obviously issue number one. That's a big issue. It's probably the biggest issue any football team can have, and it's an issue that the New York Jets are very used to having. But I do trust the general manager. One thing I do want to say about that, I want this to be Joe Douglas's decision. I don't want Woody Johnson to have any say in who the next quarterback or who the next offensive coordinator is. I don't know how much say I want Robert Saleh to have in that, to be honest with you. Robert Saleh is not an offensive guy. We don't have a single, veteran offensive mind on this staff. So Joe Douglas has a very important job to do, although I do think the future is looking bright. This is a crucial offseason for this entire regime, because if it doesn't work next year, the plug's getting pulled and their asses are gone. Their asses are out of there. But I do think the future is looking bright. I just want to thank you, Richie, for hosting. Always a pleasure talking to all you guys, Ryan, Jake, Matt. You guys are much better at this than I am, so it's always a pleasure getting to hear your insight. And we all need psychological help. That's where we're at in life as Jets fans. So thank you, Richie. Thank all you guys. Thank you, everybody in the chat. This was awesome.
Hell yeah, man. We appreciate you joining, Jack. We always love to have you here. Matt, your final say and your final last little message to Jets fans about your thoughts about the future of this team and anything else you got coming out there content-wise for the offseason.
Yeah, content-wise, talked about it a little at the beginning, but just dropped the Fixing the Jets video for 23. So if you want to check that out, it'd be greatly appreciated. I do agree that the future is bright with this team. There's a lot of young building block pieces and legit stars, but it's a very important thing to fix the quarterback position. You can't win without a quarterback. Unfortunately, we've seen that way too often. And I agree with Jack, man. It's got to be Joe Douglas's decision. You can't have the owner meddling in this, but it's going to be a really fun offseason. I'm looking forward to getting after it in 2023. And thanks again for putting this together, man. It's awesome to get to talk with all you guys, the Jets fans. And I feel myself included in this, are so lucky because there's so many great Jets content creators. I love watching all your guys work, and it's awesome to get to talk to you guys.
Appreciate that, man. We love having you on here, Matt, as always. We're going to make this a year thing, man. And like I said, next year it's going to be a different feeling. I promise you that.
We'll be doing it in February.
Disappointed after a playoff L, if anything, okay? If anything. Jake, anything else you'd like to say, man?
Yeah, I think Matt and Jack nailed it. Richie, thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate everyone who watches, all the Jets content creators. I mean, the reason why there's so many of us is because there's so many Jet fans that are on YouTube watching content, and there's an audience for everyone. So big thanks for having me. And yeah, I agree with what we talked about. As disappointing as this season was, I mean, there's still a lot of positives to point to. And yeah, there's some huge decisions they have to get right, but that's really any team that's going to go from 4 to 7 to now hopefully go into the playoffs. So I'm excited for the offseason. I know there's going to be a ton to talk about.
There's going to be a ton of talk about. If Jets content creators and Jets fans know anything, the offseason is our season, unfortunately. Not happy to say that. Ryan, anything else, my friend?
Yeah, dude, thanks for putting this together. It's always a lot of fun talking to you guys. Yeah, off season, I think there's a lot of things to look forward to. I think there's, we don't have the draft picks we have in the past, but the off season's kind of where we make our niche, our home. That's where we haven't been good in the season most of the time. So it feels like we're getting back to normalcy in the off season a little bit. As far as things going on for me, the Monday, Tuesday shows, and then I'll also be doing my mock off seasons. Cuts, signings, that sort of thing. The one thing I will say as far as the offensive coordinator goes, I think you have to be careful with signing an offensive coordinator that we're hoping is going to attract a quarterback just because Nathaniel Hackett, I think the reason the Denver Broncos went after him was because they thought he could lure Aaron Rodgers away. So I don't know if we want to necessarily go that route. I like Darrell Bevel a little bit. I think he's probably an interesting option for us just because he was the OC for the Vikings when they had Adrian Peterson, the OC for the Seahawks when they got Marshawn Lynch. I think there's a lot to really like there. Has been an interim head coach at 2 different locations, not to mention, at least has some familiarity with our offense. So maybe some of the guys we brought in to fit the Shanahan offense may not necessarily go to waste. And he has success with gunslingers. So if we're thinking about keeping Zach in any capacity, may not be a bad idea to bring in an OC that can, work with the talent that's already on the roster. So guys like Breece Hall, guys like, maybe Zach, things of that nature.
But Ryan, he called a slant at the 1.
I know. I get that. It's the Marshawn Lynch,
that's what they all say.
Run on the goal line. It's always going to be the black cloud hanging over his head. But when you look at Brett Favre, Tavares Jackson, Russell Wilson, Stafford, Tua, like getting quarterbacks out of the pocket and in space and throwing the ball, I think he's really good at it. So as far as like options that aren't as like exciting, that's probably one that, might be less exciting, but might not be too bad.
Yeah, that is a very likely guy, guys. Darrell Bevel, look out for the Jets to interview him and be a hot candidate, potentially being the New York Jets offensive coordinator. We got a lot of things to break it down more further on the channel. Of course, the final super chat comes in, says, Speed Doctor, why is Calabrese still on the staff? I don't know. The one thing I will say is, if anything, I hope they're just keeping him. So when we do get a new offensive coordinator, he's like, yep, that guy is done. Or you can just be a quality coach or something. I mean, there's no experience. I know Matt made a TikTok on it and he got a lot of hate on it from his
Staten Island was very upset with me. The whole borough.
The whole borough, Staten Island was attacking Matt. Yeah. It's freaking hilarious. But yeah, Calabrese, if you're watching, my friend, yeah, let's see you later, man. We appreciate you helping out Zach. So this was an amazing, amazing stream with all you gentlemen joining the show. Unfortunately, we couldn't get all the Jets content creators that you guys watch, but eventually that will happen. We got a lot of fun stuff coming your way on this channel for the offseason for Jets Media, of course, and all these other YouTubers. That they got a lot of awesome content coming your way, live streams and videos all throughout the offseason. So I want to give you guys another big time thank you for joining the show. And thank you to everybody in the live chat that's been active and been supportive of the channels and all of our channels. It really does mean a lot to all of us. If you guys can do us one last favor, hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Subscribe to each and every one of the people down below in the description. And that wraps up today's show. We'll catch you guys next time. Enjoy the wildcard weekend in the NFL. And let's get it done. The Jets will be in this wildcard weekend next year. Watch. I'm going to clip this. We're watching this a year from now and see, told you so. Let's go, baby. Let's go, Jets.
Love it.